Let's turn our attention to the political discussion at the moment, still being dominated by the Voice. It will be for some time. Can I ask you, given where the coalition and the opposition has landed in agreement that you're opposing the Voice, would you like to see all of your front bench colleagues now campaigning for a no vote?
The Nationals, I'm not going to speak for the Liberal Party, I'm the leader of the Nationals, and we clearly allow our members to go and to campaign, even if they weren't in favour of the position the National Party got to within our own room. But we will be going and campaigning our own electorates, and that's the localism that the Nationals bring to our electorates. We'll be doing our campaigning on a local level with our own communities, explaining the why. And the Nationals got to this position 6 months ago, and we respect the Liberals took a little bit longer, but we weren't waiting for legal advice. We didn't support the Voice on two clear principles. The first one was that it was simply going to add another layer of bureaucracy. We've got lived experience out here of the last time we did that. It was called ATSIC, and we live with those consequences. We've got over 1,000 Indigenous representative bodies now, and adding another layer, it will not help. We just need a better bureaucracy, not a bigger one. And the other key principle that we took is that we believe that all 26 million Australians are equal, and they have an equal voice through the 227 voices in that parliament, through the House of Representatives or through the Senate. Proudly, our nation's elected 11 Indigenous Australians, but they're not there just to represent Indigenous Australians, they're there to represent all Australians. That's a key tenet, a key principle, and I think that if this was just about constitutional recognition, if this was a statement of fact that Indigenous Australians were here first, that we've made some mistakes, that we're better having been together, but we'll be better sticking together, then the Nationals, I sense, would help print the ballot papers. We'd be more than happy to give that constitutional recognition and give our full support and to campaign wholly on that. But when you intertwine another layer of bureaucracy into this, then we see this through a unique lens. We just say to metropolitan Australians, we actually do have something to contribute on this. I know the Nationals may not necessarily be your cup of tea, but on this one we have lived experience because we live there. Many Australians haven't stepped foot outside a capital city, but we actually see the consequences of what we did last time, and we don't want to repeat those mistakes because there is a pathway forward, and we should have an ambitious goal of saying we will close the gap by 2030 or 2035 because we know where it is and it's invariably in our electorates. All we are doing is putting effectively into perpetuity a bureaucracy saying we've given up on closing the gap.
The Solicitor General's advice has been made public. He says pretty clearly the proposed amendment is not only compatible with the system of government established under the Constitution, but it enhances the system, is what Stephen Donoghue says. It's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, look, and I think it'd be wise for the government to provide all the advice in entirety, and also that advice that went to Cabinet. There is precedence where, on rare occasions, advice that's gone to Cabinet has been released, and I think if the Prime Minister wants to bring the Australian people into his trust and get them to support this notion that he's putting forward, then he should have faith in them in bringing it all forward. I think it's also important that the Prime Minister also put on the table of Parliament, so everyone can read it, the legislation of the design of this thing. I don't see why he couldn't do that. He has a majority in the House of Representatives, so why wouldn't he release all the information around legal advice, but also the draft legislation in what the Voice would look like in terms of its mechanics? Why wouldn't he bring the Australian people into his trust? He's asking them to change our founding document, and if it was just about constitutional recognition, we would sign up. But when he's not prepared to bring the Australian people into his trust, you got to wonder why. And just say to the Prime Minister, this is an opportunity to lead. And if you wanted to, you should separate the questions, have constitutional recognition as one, and have the Voice as the second one, where Australians can make that determination. But be honest with them. Be honest with them all the way. That's what real leadership is, and that's what I think the opportunity for the Prime Minister to do now is.
One final question on the Defence Strategic Review to be released this week. It sounds in broad terms like less tanks, more missiles. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, and look, we'll be constructive on this. We want to make sure that that strategic review looks at the strategic challenges that are facing us in a new world order, and making sure that we build on those great agreements. And I think the AUKUS agreement was just more than submarines. Generations of Australians will look back on this and say that agreement, that AUKUS agreement, protects our sovereignty for generations to come, and it'll be a legacy that the Nationals and Liberals left behind. But we need to look at the emerging threats and how they're going to be posed to Australia. We're an island nation, and that's why submarines make sense, but also around cyber security and the type of weaponry that we will need, and the capability and capacity of our Defence Force and where they should be located in this big country. So we'll be constructive in working through that with the government. I think it's important that there is a level of maturity of debate about this, that we are constructive with any ideas we have, and the government reciprocates in the way that they move forward with it.